I remember when I was a little girl going to church with my grandmother. Over the years, as I got older, and so did she, and we had fewer and fewer faith conversations, it wasn't until I attended her funeral that I realized just how strong her faith had been all along. I heard stories of how she let faith lead, even when her body was failing. One in particular where she walked the full 7 laps around the church building while using a walker for assistance, even though many others had chosen to quit early. It made me miss the opportunities that I no longer had to glean wisdom from my grandmother, so I soaked in all I could from the stories and the eulogies that were shared that day. Hearing those stories made me realize I was a part of a legacy of faith. For a season, I had focused on the lack of faith of those in my family. I was fixated on more of the bad things that happen in life, but in that moment, I realized that the bad things and those who lacked faith were not the biggest or most important part of the story. It was the good and the legacy of faith that was more important. It was knowing and understanding that God's goodness could rise above all of that. Those stories helped me see the value of a life lived by faith, walking with God over decades of hardships and blessings. This faith was passed down through my grandmother to my mom and then to me, and I hope it will be to my kids as well. Yes, we must personally come to know God on our own, but their faith helps strengthen my own. It helps show me what it looks like to live life walking with God. Maybe you have someone like this in your life, and you look at them and you just know that they have a faith well lived. You understand that they have been through some things, but they've continued to walk with God. I would say this is what Pharaoh must recognize in similar fashion when he met Jacob, Joseph's father. Pharaoh was king of the land, but Jacob was the patriarch who had walked through decades of faith and hardships. Pharaoh must have recognized the strength and the wisdom and faith that Jacob had within him that had brought his family so far along. Jacob had chosen to stay the course even when he thought his son was dead. He continued to lead his family in serving God. He had lived life walking with God, and a life lived walking with God holds weight. So when Jacob met Pharaoh, he wasn't intimidated by him. No, Jacob blessed Pharaoh. We don't know the words of that blessing that Jacob said, but we see Pharaoh's curiosity of Jacob's age is piqued when he asks Jacob how old he is. And this should remind us that faith has value over time. It blesses generations. Joseph wasn't the only one with influence. Jacob's faith was part of a legacy. Jacob blesses Pharaoh one more time before leaving the court, and Jacob and his entire family were blessed with the best of the land in Egypt. Jacob in turn blesses Pharaoh. The blessing part of the promise is once again brought to our minds. But perhaps more importantly, the legacy of faith is shown between generations. Faith that rises above hardships, above pain, difficulties, or circumstances. Who are the people in your life who've walked with God and made an impact on you and your faith? Parents, grandparents, mentors, learn from them. Take some time and honor them if you still have the chance. Then think about how your life could be part of someone else's faith story. What kind of spiritual legacy do you want to leave? Remember, a life lived walking with God holds weight, and you have the ability to bless others through your faith, blessings that could impact generations to come.